It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnett Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with Barnett Bain. Talking about prosperity. How fun was that?
Talking about prosperity, talking about... let's talk about Maria behind her back.
Let's talk about Maria.
Let's talk about her behind her back.
She's delightful. I have all nice things to say about her.
Well, that's the best kind of thing.
She's been very helpful to us, too. We sort of offline. She's been very helpful with us.
She's given us guidance.
Big guidance. Very, very wonderful woman. And I love the new definition of prosperity. I love it. A new spiritual model. That's fantastic. It's such a great way. And what I said before is true. There, as much as we've talked about I love the plants, working through the dirt and finding its way up with this promise of the blossom on the other end of the challenges, it happens in an instant. There are these clicks, at least there have been in my life, where in one moment, my consciousness shifts from a perspective to a whole new possibility. And while it may creep back, we alluded to that, slipping back into some of the pattern stuff that happens, the understanding that there's that moment where I glimpsed possibility draws me.
These peak moments.
Peak experiences.
But don't you find that any change, it always happens in an instant?
That's what I'm saying.
The change always happens in an instant.
Click.
Now, you can take forever to lead up to the moment of change, but the change is a quantum movement.
It is a quantum
from
movement.
0 to 1.
Yeah.
There's change, then there's no change.
Well, we've talked about this in terms of stories. There's a first story where you're really caught in your victimhood and when you're...
What happened to me?
And what happened to me and your family of origin and you are, because your dad says you are and your family says you are and your tribe says you are and there's no perspective that you can get out of that. Second story is we call it the triumph story where we can climb out of that. We start to see there's
it's a reaction.
It is a reaction.
The second story is entirely...
Yes, no, that's true.
A reaction to the first story. So the whole story is about how I overcame the first story.
Right, but it's a movement up. We're working the chute, right?
It is a developmental progression. It is a more empowered story than being a victim. Because the second story is how I overcame being a victim.
Right.
I lost the weight. I married the girl.
But it's very much still stuck in the same construct. It is. It's still from the same basic roots to keep our plant analogy going here. But the third story is this. Over the edge, over the horizon, where there's an element of not known that moves into there's an excitement about that. There's an excitement about the unfolding. And to speak back to the very first thing we said, there's an understanding that there's a natural expression of ourselves. There's a natural draw towards something greater than ourselves.
Well, let's pull it back.
Ours.
Why don't you pull that back?
Unfold.
Pull it back to the grace conversation, and to the knowing that you're enough.
That's it.
So in
the third story, you're enough. There's nothing to fix. There's no more seminars. It's the last seminar. There's nothing left in terms of going and fixing and repairing. And if I just knew this, then I'd be okay. The second story, it doesn't mean that the third story doesn't include the first and second story. It does, but it includes them in a gentle and gentle way. You've used the expression, it's the divine feminine's arms holding these little fragmented aspects in service to where I'm going.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I want to add only to that we come in in a relationship with prosperity, with money that is very freighted with this is my circumstances and this is what's happened to me. We move into a struggle to compensate for it, to overcome it, to be good enough. First is I'm not enough, and then am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Do I perform well enough? Am I skilled enough at my job? Do I have enough degrees? And then comes another switch, if we're very fortunate, from am I good enough to I am enough.
Yeah.
When we understand that I am enough, for the first time, in my own life, I'm beginning to more deeply explore the truth of that. It's still somewhat elusive, but I'm exploring it, and more I am able to realize the truth of what grace is, the truth of what it is, of that kind of entitlement is, the truth that just as a flower blooms without any effort and birds fly without any effort because it comes naturally.
Yeah.
They're not trying to be good enough. They're not trying to overcome something from the past. When I really let that in, I can begin to make peace with the parts of me that are frantic and that are trying to compensate and that are worried about the future and will I be supported. So it's it is a incremental. It's an incremental shift.
Yeah, and I love the qualities, the felt qualities in prosperity. Again, it's a distraction to just make prosperity money, and that's such an illusion. You know, it's such a programmed belief structure. But so when we tease back from the form, and you've used this language so often, Barnett, and we say, well, wait, what's underneath the form? Not the what, but the why that's underneath the what. What's underneath it? What's the feeling quality that I would have if I had enough money, or if I had this or that? What am I really going for? What's really more aligned with a heart sense or a felt sense of my own spiritual, my own spirit, my own essence, if you will. So that piece to me is very exciting, because then prosperity becomes a real offer. It's not this looming thing like, I got to go figure out prosperity. I got to figure it out.
It's a gift. More
it's a
than
gift.
I understand the offer piece. It is a gift, and then when we understand that it is a gift and that I am absolutely connected to that gift because I'm enough, then it allows me to be the offer. So I think that's probably where you're talking about.
Yeah.
It allows me to be the offer. It allows me to give, to look to give even more so than I'm looking to get, and to look to give in a way that is exalted, that is not transactional.
Yeah.
That is not I'm giving, but my real agenda is I'm going to get. It is an agenda of I'm going to give for the joy of giving. I'm going to give because I am going to be a part of the graceful unfolding of somebody else or something else. Whether I am watering the plants in my garden, I'm a part of the graceful unfolding of that, or I am giving to somebody else a kind thought
we
or a
talked
smile.
about this recently. We talked
I
about...
think in real time we were someplace.
Yeah, we were talking about reasons for giving, and in the past it was giving to be recognized, or even the crazy stuff. I mean, I grew up Catholic with the idea, if I'm really good and I give a lot, I get into heaven. Like the
You're
whole
going to
idea...
earn your way.
Yes.
These are, again, these what we call these second story narratives that I can overcome. I can react to a feeling that I am flawed and overcome my flaw by giving, by manipulating,
really
by being the best boy, or being the smartest boy, or being the top dog, or being the boss. This is the American dream story. I can come here and I can work my way to the top, and then there's a finish line. There's a ticker tape. Or there's like a tape. I'm going to cross a finish line, and I will have arrived. But
there are gates that will open.
There is no arrival.
There is none.
There is no arrival.
And it's and from the perspective you and I share, we're giving to ourselves. We're giving to something that we consider ourselves part of. So the idea of giving, especially the heartfelt giving, it's this sense of I'm vested in this. This is me. So it's not about the reward. It's about
it's the joy of giving. It is the fun and the joy of giving. It's about the expression of
the parts of us that there's nothing but joy in this. The joy, the fun. Those are the frequencies that we're following. Like we've called it a scent. There's a scent of it, and the scent is alluring, and it's got so much in it. And
you are giving to yourself.
Yeah,
you're not giving to your ego, but you're giving to the awakening realization that maybe my brother I'm not my brother's keeper, but I am my brother.
Right.
So maybe it is true that I am not separate from anything else.
Beautiful.
My ego would have me believe otherwise, but maybe when I become a giver, those who are givers, I remember reading Mother Teresa talking about the joy that she experienced just of being a giver, just the joy of it, the ecstasy of being a giver. So I think that is a herald for me. It's a beacon of a possibility that exists for all of us. For me, I'm attuned to that. I want to uncover the joy of being that kind of a person who experiences such bliss out of contributing to others with a deeper sense of I am contributing to a wholeness of which I'm a part.
That's beautiful, and that absolutely is what Maria was speaking to when she was talking about sharing our gifts, sharing with others with their gifts, celebrating each other, co-creating. This language is powerful.
Celebration is a part of the energies of prosperity.
Absolutely.
Celebration, triumph is a part. Triumph of a character, not of ego. A triumph, which is a victory that is more than winning. Winning is second-story thing. I'm going to crush it.
Right.
But a victory that is more than winning. It's the triumphant satisfaction of having created something that is beautiful, or something that works, or have met a task and completed a task, or manifested something, a relationship, a business.
It's this higher principle. And I love that what we started with, the idea of a plant lifting and lifting and lifting and blossoming,
stretching to
opening to the light. That's it. And becoming this beautiful creation.
Unless you're a night blooming jasmine.
Well, that has its own.
You're stretching to the dark.
Yeah, you're stretching to the moon or something.
There's light
like that.
even in the dark.
Of course,
even in the
is.
darkest night, there is a light.
Of course, there is. So I'm excited. I'm excited about the new definition for prosperity. I love the spiritual perspective. I like the idea that it's a grounded spirituality. That it's not. It is both. It is both rooted in the dirt. We're aware of where we've come from. We're aware of all the fragments. We hold them with a certain amount of compassion and with an understanding, and that those parts may still come up from time to time, but that we're reaching up with a sense that we're all of this. We are both where we've been and we are where we're going simultaneously. That's the offer of the third story, that it's big enough to hold where we've been with a perspective that is not good or bad, it's developmental, and that when we slip into it, we want to move back again because there's something bigger for us. And then it isn't like there isn't this burden, there isn't this task, there isn't this. It isn't as the struggle isn't necessary as much. We can really be
the
okay.
struggle is a choice.
At some point, the struggle becomes a choice. That's the beautiful. That's an important point. That's a really important point because it's initially.
That's probably for another show. We're pretty much at the end of our time here. We're in the last couple of minutes, but
yeah.
But it is a choice. I go into struggle, and Sandy says, "Well, exactly what part of you am I hearing from
That's
right
right.
now? Is this a part that is absolutely current right here in the moment, or is this a part that has been conditioned and out of experiences from the past that has been disappointed or hurt or humiliated or shamed, or is holding something from the past? Am I hearing from a part of you that is 6 years old or 16 or 26 or 46? I'm certainly not hearing from you right here and now, and I'd like to."
Right. So it's interesting because Jasmine has something similar. She says, "Do you really want to? Do you really want to tell that story?
Do you really want to go back there?"
And a part of me does want to. I mean, a part of me. It's a part of me that's hooked into that story. But we don't want that part driving the bus. But I'm aware. Oh, that
you
part
be
is
I want to be in
there.
relationship.
That's
I want
right.
to be in relationship with that part of me.
Absolutely.
That holds the world in that way and responds to the world from an old toolkit. I don't want to be so identified with it that it is running my life.
That's it.
I want to be related to it so that I can recognize it where it's what it's thinking, what it's feeling, and what its tools are. I can respond to it compassionately and hold the line, but you're not running my life, so that I can make my own choices.
And to the degree we have compassion for that, when it shows up in our experience based on the developmental stage being reflected back, in other words, we see something that's operating from this kind of I've got to get it mentality, or there's a fight involved mentality, or whatever it is, we can identify it as the part of us. We can hold it with the same compassion that we hold the fragment within ourselves. That makes us able to respond in the world versus react. That makes us instruments of this potentiality that we're moving towards. So it's a really beautiful, dynamic dance, if you will, moving towards this big offer, the big offer of prosperity.
Fun dancing and moving and sniffing down the trail
and
of
with that,
prosperity.
we've got to
with
boogie
you.
on to the next show. If you're listening on KKZZ and KVTA, stay tuned for Coast to Coast. And we are so grateful that you tuned in today to listen to us today. Thanks for
See you
listening.
next week.